What a big night it was here in the state of Texas on Super Tuesday. Let's jump into the results here. Donald Trump receiving 1.8 million votes with 99% of the vote in. So Nikki Haley, who has dropped out of the race as of today because she got clobbered. She had no path to victory. She was wasting money, wasting time. But this was very good for Donald Trump. She received 17%, 405,000. Now remember when there were more candidates in the race. The big thing was make it a two-person race, and you're going to see we'll be able to knock off Trump. It's going to be difficult for Trump to win. Make it a two-person race. Well, it became a two-person race, and he beat the brakes off of her. Now she's going to become irrelevant very fast. Let's keep going here. Ted Cruz had a big night. He actually received more votes than Trump. As of right now, Ted Cruz is up to 1.9 million with 52,000 votes left. And his challenger here in Texas for the Senate seat, Colin Allred, received 566,000 votes. He won his race pretty handily. This is the guy that they want to challenge Ted Cruz to take the seat, to try to turn Texas blue. You're going to see a lot of money come in from Soros, California, New York to try to unseat the incumbent. But let's take a look back at 2018. Actually, first let's go to 2020. Why this is important. If you go down to the Senate race in 2020 with Mary Hager, I believe I pronounced that correctly, she received 417,000 votes. And I saw her signs up everywhere. She was spending a ton of money. She got clobbered by John Cornyn, against John Cornyn in the general. But in the primary, he received 1.4 million votes. And you fast forward to 2024, Ted Cruz received 500,000 more votes than him. These are good signs. Let's go back even further to 2018, which is actually more relevant to this race because this is when Ted Cruz was going up against Jumpin' Jack Flap, aka Beto O'Rourke, who got clobbered, who's lost three straight races, three straight elections, I should say. Uh, Ted Cruz got 1.3 million votes back then, which was a lot. But then he goes to the general. He received about 4.2 million. Jumpin' Jack Flap gave him a very close, very tight election campaign, and he got within 2.6 percentage points of 200,000 votes to be exact, almost flipping that seat. I don't think you're going to see the same thing here in November with Ted Cruz and Colin Allred. You're going to see a lot of money come in. You're going to see a lot of campaigning against Ted Cruz. He'll get a lot of votes, but Ted Cruz is running with Trump. Trump is going to actually, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Ted Cruz gets more votes than Trump because if you go back to 2020, we're going to go back again. 2020, Corner received about 6 million votes in the general to Trump's 5.9 million, and he won at a wider margin, about 10%, a million votes. Now, Ted Cruz is more polarizing. He's more polarizing. You know, John Cornyn is a rhino. He's a rhino, but Ted Cruz is more polarizing. He's actually one of the most popular senators in the country on both sides. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people love him. So it's going to be a tight race. Not a tight race, but it's going to be a very high turnout race on both sides. But ultimately, Ted Cruz will clobber him and send Colin Allred packing. I think he might win by about 7 to 8%. Maybe. I don't know. If he gets more votes than Trump, I think that margin will be bigger. You might see him win by 10%. Just my prediction. I don't think he's gonna have any trouble in this race. Like I said, he's not. It's not gonna be like Beto. Beto was a great campaigner that year. Raised a ton of money, $70 million to Ted Cruz's 40 million. I don't think we're gonna see that this time around. He'll raise a lot of money, but I don't think it's gonna be that tight of a race as we saw back in 2018. Now, Texas, there are some other big races in Texas. Big things happen here that mean a lot for the country because if they flip this state, you can kiss the United States goodbye. Attorney General Ken Paxton's criminal appeals court picks unseat incumbents. This is big because back in 2021, there was an 8-1 ruling. There was an 8-1 ruling to strip, and all these judges were conservative or Republicans. There were 8 of 9 judges that year that removed Ken Paxton's powers to prosecute election fraud and put it in the hands of local DAs. The problem is you can have Soros-backed DAs like in Harris County, in Travis County. You can and it puts they're not going to prosecute election fraud. They're not going to if it's in their favor, and that's the problem. You can have these rogue judges installed, and then Ken Paxton won't be able to do anything about it. That's what this was all about. And I'm glad that look, we came out and got rid of 3 of these judges. Believe it was David Schink. I can't pronounce that properly, but forgive me. I think that was one that I voted in, and he knocked off the incumbent 62-38. So this is a very big night. Ken Paxton was campaigning against a lot of people. He campaigned against some House members that voted to impeach him. Some were successful, some weren't. But nonetheless, this right here was very important. The people of Texas, this was actually very effective what Ken Paxton did. And he had grassroots organizations promoting these candidates as well. And it got people like me to vote against these rhinos. Now, there was more. Uh, Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan. I actually saw this guy get sworn in. He's a rhino. He's the one that didn't do anything that was leading the charge with Ken Paxton getting impeached. This guy looked like he was drunk on the House floor. Here he is right here, is that rhino sitting in his seat. This guy almost lost last night. He's actually facing a runoff election. I believe he is, there we go. He was down by 1,000 votes. And the only reason why he didn't lose is because the challenger, David Covey, didn't meet 50%. So there's going to be a runoff in this race, and this is very important because, look, he's passed some. There have been some great bills that have been passed this legislative session here in the state of Texas, but he's also blocked some very important ones relating to some very important things like legal immigration. But I would be glad to see him go. He's putting a lot of Democrats in committee chair positions, and that's not good for our state. We want to pass very conservative legislation here in the state. We can't do it properly if we have a bunch of Democrats in certain key positions, which should have Republicans. We're a Republican majority here in the state of Texas, from the governorship down to the House, to the AG, to the Secretary of State. It's a Republican wash across the board. Republicans have won statewide races for the last 30 years here. I mean, it's been a complete sweep across the board, and it doesn't do any good if they're not doing conservative things. You have people like Dan Patrick, who I think has been very good in the Senate. The Senate is actually better than the House, in my opinion. Now, the person in my district, District 98, the incumbent won in a landslide, unfortunately, but 6 of the 10 House members that Greg Abbott was targeting for not backing school choice, 6 of the 10 got knocked off. 6 of 10 incumbents got knocked off, and Greg Abbott spent $4.4 million to unseat these people. The remaining 4 are in runoffs. This is why I say it was a great night for the state of Texas, because the people came out to vote to get the rhinos out of here, to get the rhinos out of Austin. I heard that Austin is actually worse than DC as far as the swamp goes. And yeah, it was a big night here in the state of Texas. Now my prediction, this is my prediction for the presidential race. I'm just going to go based off of trends. If we go back to 2020, Trump received 5.9 million votes, which is a record presidential race record here in the state of Texas, to Joe Biden's 5.3 million, 5.2, little over 5.2 million votes, with about a gap of about 600, almost 650,000, or 6%. In 2016, Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 800,000 votes at 9%. Now, I think he's going to perform very well. I think we're going to see upwards of 6 million votes again, maybe 6.2, 6.3 million votes. Joe Biden, who I think will be the nominee. I don't like. It's not going to be Michelle Obama. I didn't think we should put that to rest. I'm just not buying that right now. Maybe it could be Gavin Newsom. I don't know, but I think Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. He has the money. He is the incumbent. He's very stubborn. I don't see this guy stepping down at all, and I think he is going to be the nominee. He has almost all the delegates needed to uh, be the nominee for the Democrat Party. But I think Trump's going to perform very well. He did well in Dallas County, receiving two-thirds of the vote. He did well in Harris County, receiving 76% of the vote, three-fourths, over three-fourths of the vote. He did well over in San Antonio, setting three-fourths of the vote. Even in Travis County, where Blue Austin is, he received almost 60%, a much lower turnout on the Republican side for obvious reasons. But yeah, so Joe Biden is at 800,000 votes here in the state of Texas. You go back to 2020, I believe he received about 725,000 here. A little more for Joe Biden. We have a population increases and things like that. So, and then he's also running, basically running unopposed here. So I'm not surprised that he received that many votes. But still, Trump clobbered him in the primary. If you just look at the primary alone this year, Travis County, Joe Biden receiving 84% of the vote. Trump getting 30,000 votes, 48,000 vote margin. Trump's not going to win Travis County. We all know that. But I think in Dallas, if Trump can keep it within 30 to 40% and 35% in Dallas, he's going to be in good shape. And that's really all of the big cities, the major counties. Dallas County, Harris County, Bayard County. If he can keep it at 30 to 40%, 35, 40% in those states, and then clean up the rural areas, he's gonna do just fine. He's gonna receive about 70 to 80% of the votes here, just like he did in previous elections. Same with Greg Abbott. When in 2022, they ran up the score on the rural areas. So that's where it's important. If you can keep it close, or at least keep it within, if you could get 35% of the vote, 40% of the vote in these major cities, and then just run up the score on the rural areas, we'll be fine. Now, there's going to be a lot of money coming in from all sides to defeat Donald Trump in the state of Texas. They have been after the state for a long time, and they just haven't been able to move Texas like that, like they planned, like they expected to over the years. And I'm very glad because I don't want to live in a blue state. I don't. I don't want to live in a place that's destroyed by liberals. We need Trump back in office so we can secure this border, and we don't have to have our governor doing the job of the federal government when it comes to securing the border. I love this state. I don't ever want to leave here, and I want it to remain red. And while they have not been able to turn Texas blue, it has become more competitive. They've come after the state a lot harder over in recent elections. So it's important, and I think 2018 was a wake-up call for Republicans. You saw what Beto, Jumping Jack Flap did by almost flipping that Senate seat, and it was a wake-up call for Republicans to not take things for granted as he did. Ted Cruz did, only becoming really focused on the last 3 months of that cycle. Otherwise, he could have lost that seat. And so you saw Republicans mobilizing in 2020 and 2022 to get out the vote on a massive level. There There are some candidates that had some very good strategies. Um, really just calling and contacting people that had voted in the past, encouraging them to get out and vote again. So it was more about, of course, you want to find new voters, but what really brought up that vote total in recent election cycles were was the GOP here in Texas and candidates in Texas encouraging people that they already had on the voter rolls who have voted in the past and getting them to turn out. That was key in 2020, and you saw it again in 2022. Dan Patrick going across the state, getting out the vote. He knew it was going to be competitive, so that's the thing. Rush Limbaugh said it best when people ask, "Well, how do you stop them from turning Texas blue?" He said, "You get out there and compete with these people. You compete. That is simple as that. You get out there and you compete. That's how you stop it from happening. You don't just sit back and just take the votes people for granted that they're going to come out and vote Republican because the Democrats are coming hard for the state. So that's how Republicans have been able to keep Texas red is because they've got out and competed with these people. They want to send resources our way and try to knock people off and turn the state blue. We're going to come back even harder. You saw Greg Abbott do in 2022. Greg Abbott went all across the state campaigning. He knew he was going to beat Beto. Greg Abbott said it himself. He said, "I'm going to beat him, but I'm not going to take anything for granted. So I'm going to get out there and campaign." So you act like you're down, like this guy is only 1 point behind you, and you go into these cities, go into these towns, and you let people know what is going to happen if they take over the state. And the way Greg Abbott was able to knock off Beto was that he tied him to Joe Biden. He tied the border crisis to Biden's border crisis to Beto, and that was very important. Also tied in his success economically with the state and everything. But that's how you win. That's how you keep Texas ready. You get out there, you compete with these people. You don't let them take over the state and do nothing about it. You have to get out there and compete. Go to meetings. Get people to help register people to vote. Vote yourselves. Tell your family members to vote. I tell my wife and I we go early vote every election. Local elections, state level elections, and national election. My wife and I go out early vote every time. I contact a few people. Hey, did you get out there and vote? Sometimes I'll volunteer with Republican clubs or certain candidates to make sure people are doing their part. Uh, and that's how you keep Texas red. Is you compete with these people. You don't let them overrun your state. So I think 2024 is going to be a great year for the state of Texas. Trump is going to win by 800,000 to 1 million votes. My prediction: Ted Cruz is gonna clobber Colin all red, and we're gonna see a landslide here in Texas, and we're gonna send a strong message that you're not coming after our state. You're not going to turn us into California. You're not going to turn us into New York. You're not going to turn us into Illinois. Yeah, but I'm going to leave the video right there. I just want to give you an update on Texas and what happened last night. If you listen to this today, it is now Wednesday, March 6th, and I'm really looking forward to November. It's going to be a big day, November 5th. So make sure you get out there and get prepared. It's going to be a tough election. They're going to come after the state. So be ready for that. But hey, the best thing you can do is get out there and vote and make your voices heard and tell others to vote as well if you want to keep the state the greatest place to live in the country, in my opinion. Yeah. But all right, guys, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Thank you. Take care.